Hello, and in today's video we'll be looking at Evil High Priest, a game by Petersen Games. So I've got the core set, the blood ceremony and the dark ritual, as well as a little High Priest upgrade, EHP3, and then a little mystery package there that, spoiler alert, is tokens. So yeah, we're going to be having a look at those. I'm going to be mainly concentrating on the board. I have quickly opened up the box just to check everything's complete, and I will be commenting on a slight problem I've had with my shipment, but hopefully a ticket off to Petersen Games will actually take care of that. They're pretty good about dealing with stuff. Inside the box you've got the rule book, which is not actually 100% accurate, sadly, but it gives you a component list, including telling you about various cards. It then talks about the expansions, so you do actually in the base box know about the expansions, which also includes the artifact pack. Now the artifact pack sadly neglects to mention that it does also include the atomic extras for the Dark Ritual expansion, so that's a bit of a whoopsie. And then you could have bought either set 1 or set 2 of the cultic sets. Now because I've got Cthulhu Wars Onslaught 3 coming up, most of these acolytes I'm getting, so rather than buy this I bought EHP 3, which basically just includes the High Priests and the Daemon Sultan acolytes, and that's where I had a problem. The High Priest, sadly, although they're a lovely sculpt, they seem to have a bit of a weak point at the ankles, and I've had 2 of mine actually snap off. It's going to be a pretty easy fix. I think it's because it's quite a hardish plastic they've used, but it's just a slight irritation. But you know, we'll see what happens with customer service on that front. You've then got a nice bit talking about setup and then various bits and pieces as it goes through, and then a nice gribbly on the back, because in this game you're not investigators trying to stop the evil menace. You are the evil menace, and you are in fact trying to summon your old one and become the High Priest and take over the world. So in some ways this is a prelude to Cthulhu Wars. Now inside the box you've got various playmats. Now this is slightly disappointing. It's got a black back and it's sort of, although it's decent quality, it's sort of thin. I would have preferred a sort of a thicker quality component. It's sort of about the same thickness as the stuff that came in the first version of Cthulhu Wars, and over time they've been slowly upgrading it with thicker. You know, this should be 3mm, not this sort of 1mm, 2mm quality card, but yeah, it's a bit disappointing. Now the investigators, they in the base box don't do much, but if you get the expansions you can get randomized investigators. Monsters, equally you get randomized monsters, although in the base box they're all basically deep ones, but you do get chambers, and chambers are what you put in your sanctuary, I want to call it. So each player will then have their own individual layer where they can put monsters. They have a cultist pool, they can escape, and they have priestly powers, so there are 5 of those if I remember correctly. And let's get those out the way. You've then got a load of chits. Now I'm probably not going to be using too many of these. I will be using the first player marker and the deep one marker, but all these other bits I'm not sure I'm going to be using, although I do think I'm going to need to use these. These are for the investigators who are raiding your lair and trying to beat you up. And there are several of these boards. Is it 4 or 3? I think it's 3 of those. And you know, these are pretty chunky tokens, so they're good. You don't need the 3D components per se. As I said, each layer also comes with a sanctuary, so you're going to put your little cards on here and store your resources on them. There's also the asylum, and then you can track how strong your raid is, and the idea is they come in and start beating up your bits, and your traps trigger, and then the raid strength is reduced by the tracks. There is also a rituals board which starts off like this, and then once you've been raided it flips over and you can then send off people to do these, but it sort of locks you in. You start off here and you go across. Now if I remember correctly, the cost is on the top and the bonus is at the bottom. That's how that normally works. And then you've got this tiny little board that folds out to be quite big, and this is your Cthulhu and Shub-Niggurath boards. The expansions give you the other old ones, so we'll have to fold that out in a bit. And then right at the bottom here, you've got this weird little board, which when you fold it out is, if I remember correctly, the town, where you can go and do stuff in town and cause all sorts of problems. So, for example, you pay at the top to earn at the bottom. So, yeah, so if I come over here, you pay a spell book to earn the 2 bits there, and then I think white is sort of a wild card option. Then at the bottom you've got your chambers, which are sort of randomised. So for example, this one's, when I quickly chuck it in, this all comes sealed, but I did quickly open it up just to check it. So you've got a vault, a false wall, and a dimension gate. So these are the bits that you kind of lay to store stuff in your sanctuary and also to beat up the raids. You also get some regular poker size sort of cards. So you've got the Shoggoth, which is for the Cthulhu board, but then you've got a load of monsters which are the deep ones, and they have a strength which they use to beat up incoming investigations. Then if you don't want to buy the 3D acolytes, you do have wooden meeples. So these are your regular guys, and then the guys with the stars. Oh, there you go. So this green guy here, got a big staff. He is your high priest. And these are perfectly serviceable, so if you just buy the base set, that'll be fine. You get some nice high quality dice, and there's an insert which in theory all fits back into nicely, and a nice little demonic ritual at the bottom here. Now, this little bit well here is where you're meant to put your dice, but if you keep them in the baggie, they don't fit. So I can see me having to ditch this insert quite quickly, particularly if you try and sleeve the cards. These might be awkward to sleeve. They're a very awkward, tiny size. So if you're a fan of sleeving, this game could be a bit of a problem. I do know lots of people in the board gaming world, they're not so keen on sleeving. So anyway, I'm going to pack this all away for now, because I'm actually going to have a game of this tomorrow. And then once I've had that game, I should be able to kind of go into a bit more detail about how this all works and everything, with the benefit of actually some gameplay and reading of the rulebook. So I'm punching out the tokens, and they punch out pretty well actually. They're nice, decent, clean cuts, and as you can see, tokens perfectly serviceable. So anyway, 3D ones. Well, these atomic tokens here, they're actually for the expansion, the Dark Ritual. So I'm going to put them to one side, and they'll be useful for when I start doing the Dark Ritual. But let's have a look at the other tokens. First of all, you've got nice 3D Elder Signs. You've then got some spell books, some 1 and 3 eyes, which are for magic, and then 1 and 3 blood, so buckets of blood there, and then 1 and 3 treasure or money. And these are pretty decent quality. As you can see, I haven't taken them out of the baggies, so they're pretty good, and they're a nice upgrade. But getting them in this box, I think it's going to be difficult. I think the insert's going to have to get trashed. I did actually take the dice out of the baggie to get it back in the box easily, and then use that baggie for example, the investigator and start player token. So yeah, I think this box is a little bit smaller than it should be, because it would be quite nice actually to have plenty of room to put your expansions in. So, you know, the Blood Ceremony, it gives you Crawling Chaos, Opener of the Way, the Choo Choo and Sleeper cult boards, with 12 extra monsters, 10 unique priest cards to make your priests a little bit more variable, 10 investigator cards, and then some special bits for the various old one boards. And then obviously we've also got the Watcher, the Windwalker, the Yellow Sign, and Ancients as well, and similar sort of setup for that. Okay, so that's pretty good. The High Priests, they're pretty cool, but as you can see, the base is snapped off on the red and the yellow, so my Shub-Niggurath and Yellow Sign High Priests are going to need a bit of repair and they might be usable, but equally it might be I can get a new one. And some of these figures are a little bit bendy, so maybe the hot water treatment's going to be needed on them. And again, how am I going to store them in the board? And also, you know, these are potentially for use with Cthulhu Wars, so I actually store this with Cthulhu Wars and do in fact use the wooden meeples for Evil High Priest. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that quick look at unboxing the game. As I say, I've got a game tomorrow of this, so once I've done that, obviously I'll be able to tell you more about the box set, and then also we can then think about having a look at the expansion, so look for future videos of that. But in the meantime, keep watching and we will tell you what I think about the game and maybe even a little bit of a how to play. Well, it's been a couple of weeks since my first section of the video and I've played the game. I did enjoy it, although there are some issues with it being absolutely brutal. I have received my replacement High Priest, but I'm using the wooden ones that come in the base box together with the cardboard chits and all the bits, no expansions. So this is the Cthulhu board, so you have a Shoggoth token, and a Deep One token. You've also got your standard Deep One monsters, your chambers, your town, the ritual board, and then your lair. Now, as the first player, I get to get just one starting resource, so I'm going to take a spell book. Now, the second player gets 2 resources, the third player 3, the fourth player 4. You get 4 cultists in the asylum, but the others here. Your High Priest can go on your High Priest activation spots, including this spot if you're playing with the expansion, but I'm not. And your regular little dudes can't go over here. They can either escape or they can go up to the top here. Now, the top is where you have to spend. So if I come here, I have to spend 5 of any resource to get 3 magic. You can come here to take the first player marker. You can't skulk. There is a teeny little skulk spot, and if you're playing with enough players, there's a second skulk spot that's pretty hard to notice. If you buy monsters, they go on your lair, and that's pretty much the game. And as it says in here, each player takes a turn, then you activate all skulk spaces, then you prepare, and you might actually need to trigger a raid. If you do, you roll your dice, you move your little Illuminati sort of sign up, and then as it takes damage, it comes down. Once it gets to 0, it's gone. Anything in your exposed resources is destroyed. Anything in your chambers, depending on what happens, potentially does get destroyed. So for example, if I had a trap here, it would do 3 damage to any invading raid, and then you know, you can't store anything on it. And I could then have after that something that does 3 damage to the raid, and if it loses any of the resources, destroy this chamber, and it can store up to 3 resources. And so that's basically how the game goes. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to get your priest to come here. So to do that, I couldn't spend this. I would actually have to get 2 magic. So I'm going to have to come over here to get that, and so on and so forth. And the game ends when all the elder signs are destroyed. So you would flip them over to say they're destroyed, but they're actually potentially victory points. So you would actually put them in your lair. You'd probably want to store them somewhere fairly decent. And that's basically how the game goes. At the game end, most victory points win, so you get 10 victory points for an elder sign, 5 for a spellbook, 2 for magic, 1 for blood, 0 for monsters and priests. Whoever has the most money gets 5 victory points, and just to clarify, you pay the red to earn the blue. Now, the graphics, a little bit dark, a little bit simple. The graphics on here I think could have been done a little bit better. Some of these arrows are a little bit unclear where stuff flows from and to, but it's not terrible. But as I say, the game is absolutely brutal, particularly when you get down the bottom here, because you've got trigger raid rolling 2 dice, and in our game I think someone triggered this spot, and then someone else triggered this spot and this spot to end the game, and so we had 3 raids one after the other, and it was absolutely brutal and totally wiped out one of the players. So you need to be prepared for that. What we did notice is the generic monsters of Deep Ones was a little bit boring, so adding an expansion pack to give you that variation would be good. I think it would also be nice to have a variant on your cultists, and of course with the investigators, they're just regular investigators, but with an expansion you've got these 3 slots up the top here. So there you go. I'm not really going to give much more of a playthrough than that. I think, you know, there is plenty of videos from Sandy himself telling you how to do it. But that's just to give you my overall look. Do I think it's a good game? Well, it's a good game. I don't think it's a great game. I think Cthulhu Wars does rather blow this one out the water. But yeah, it's not bad. I did actually look at trading it within my game group because I wasn't so mad for it that I think I must keep this in my game collection, but I would have been sad to lose the ability to play it, particularly without playing the expansions. Now, once I actually do play the expansions, which I haven't done, I might upgrade my rating for this game. So it's probably a good 6 or 7 on the Board Game Geek scale. Adding the expansion probably would make it a firm 7, maybe an 8. I'm not sure it's going to be a 9 or 10 for me. I don't know. The component upgrade pack is nice, but you know, these are perfectly serviceable actually, and it does allow you to store stuff in the box. As you can see, I've got a great big baggie to put things in, and without sleeving the cards, it does all go back in the box, but I still think they should have gone with a slightly bigger box to make storage much easier. So there you go, that's pretty much it. And just to clarify, when it comes to the rituals, you'll notice there's a ritual here that finishes here and a second ritual here, because in the first part of the video I slid my finger all the way across. You might have thought it goes all the way across, but no, you start here, you end here, you start here, you end here, you start here, end here, here, end, and then here. That's the one that goes all the way across, and you can earn quite a lot of money from it, but it takes you a long time to get your meeple back because it's trapped here. But one way of getting them back is if you have to sacrifice a cultist, you can actually like kill them off on the board. They go to the asylum. Obviously, if your asylum spaces fill up, I believe they come here, but you don't get the benefit of the money because you've got to actually place someone here to get the money, not just like discard them to this location. I think that probably will do it for this video. I think it's a decent game, but not a great game.